again, YouTube. This is Pilsy74 bringing you another game of Assassin's Creed Revelations. This is my second to last game of Assassin's Creed Revelations that I'm putting up. And today I am playing Wanted in Rome. And I was kind of rudely interrupted by Hurricane Sandy. And I actually, I'm going to tell you a story that started 2 weeks ago. And basically it started with me finishing the challenges in Assassin's Creed and with Revelations, and basically that happened I think around 4 o'clock on Sunday the 28th. So I'm in a good mood, I'm done, I'm ready for AC3 to come out, and that was great. And about 9 o'clock that night, or 8:30 or 9 o'clock, I went onto my local newspaper's website, and it said that we were under a mandatory evacuation for Sandy. Now, I think I've mentioned this before. I live on Long Island. I happen to live on the south shore of Long Island. And anything that was, basically my whole entire town was told to evacuate. So, upon hearing this, my wife decided, you know what, we're out of here. So we packed a few things quick, found a hotel that was more in the middle of the island, in a town that was 200 feet above sea level as opposed to the 7 feet that my town is, and we left. And the next day, the hurricane hit and we were sitting in the hotel room. Now, the funny thing was I was actually working during this time. My office was open, but my boss basically said don't bother coming in. So we were all working from wherever we were. And my office closed at 4. Got out of the office. Logged off work. Was online for maybe another hour, and the power went out in the hotel. So we stayed the next night also. So now we're going into Tuesday. On Tuesday, there were a few things open. There was a King Cullen open down the block. There was a Dunkin' Donuts that had a line wrapped around it. There was a 7-Eleven that was open. None of them really had power. They were all either on generator or just doing hand calculations. So after that, we we went to King Cullen. I said, you know what, I want to go home. I want to see what the damage is. So I came home. The roads were a mess. Trees down, power lines down. And as I got into my town, I noticed that the area I was in wasn't really hit except for trees. I mean, there was a tree a few blocks away from me leaning on it. Literally, this old tree leaning on a house. And I got to the block and saw that there was no flood line, which I'd seen coming home. So I got into my house. Now my house is also like a foot. I have a crawl space. My house is like a foot above the ground. So got in, checked my carpet, completely dry. Was very, very happy. Went, checked my wife's car, completely dry. So, very, very happy again. And so I went to my grandmother's house. She doesn't live that far, right? And she had 3 feet of water in her basement. Her den had been flooded. Her car was ruined. Her couches, there was a chair that my grandfather used to sit in before he. I mean, this was old stuff. I mean, my grandfather passed 11 years ago, but his chair was ruined. So that was obviously not great. And then I went to my parents' house, who live even south of my grandmother, and saw the flood line on their lawn about 8 feet from their front door. Looked around the house. There's a tree down in the backyard, a small tree, no big deal. Went in, completely dry. I have no idea how they lucked out. So, went back to the hotel, got my wife, got the kids, came home. Now there was one other problem here, and obviously was power. And you might have heard news stories about LIPA, Long Island Power Authority, and how much trouble they've been in with the governor, with local authorities. Just basically they have no plan, and that's the issue that we've had is that we had no power. So, my brother lives a little bit north of Pennsylvania. We went to his house. He invited us. He said, you know what, screw it, everybody come. My grandmother didn't want to leave. I went over and convinced her. So we went. My family went down on Thursday. My parents and my grandmother joined us on Friday. and we just went down to my brother's house in Pennsylvania for a few days. I then found out that one of my buddies, his whole first floor was gone. 3 feet of water, he had hardwood floors. Basically everything there was destroyed. So offered to get him stuff, went to Target, got him a few things, because that Target was actually well stocked, as opposed to anything around here. And went, so we had a good weekend. And then we came back, and it started getting cold that weekend, and that was the problem. And so it was getting cold, and we, didn't have any power. So my wife had bought a tent a couple of years ago for, I forget why. And so we actually slept in the tent for 4 or 5 nights, conserving body heat, because when I woke up on Saturday, the house was at 43 degrees. And yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun. And then finally on Saturday, at about 11:30, I think it was, we saw Lipa trucks in the neighborhood, and they came and they turned the power back on. Luckily for me, unluckily for me, the one of the wires to my house was actually disconnected, was snapped in the wind, and I was able to get the bucket truck back and fix it. That was lucky. My grandmother still does not have power. This is Sunday the 11th. My parents do not have power. They've been stopping by here basically around 6 o'clock every night just to sit and warm up for a while. And that's really what happened with us with Sandy. I happened to be off last week, which was kind of lucky, because when I got the bucket truck back, my wife would not have been able to get out and do that. So luckily for us, I was able to get the bucket truck, and I was able to get them to come back. Because otherwise, I had put in a report for the snap line, but God knows when they would have gotten to it. It's one house as opposed to turning on hundreds of houses at a time. Few things. As I said, my buddy's house completely destroyed, his first floor, and he's got a colonial. And I went over yesterday and helped clean out his house. It was just ridiculously sad. He is the father of my little one's best friend. So he's got a 6-year-old, and his baby is about 11 months and 10 months. And just basically everything that was on the first floor is completely destroyed. He had wood floors, are completely warped. It's just a nightmare. I mean, you never want to go through something like that. The town that's south of me, I live on the South Shore, so there are the barrier islands. You might have heard of towns like Long Beach, for instance, that are having problems there. I mean, just so much of their stuff is destroyed. So many things that just have gone wrong with this. It's just heartbreaking. It really is. And I mean, luckily for us, we have power. We've had power for since Friday afternoon, or Friday about noon. But it's just, it's a nightmare around here. It really is. I mean, there's still, we just came back from eating and going into my town. There's no lights right there. There are no lights. I mean, we go over a canal to come into the town, and the canal completely overflooded, and everything around there is just horrible. I have a friend that lives very close to that area, and when Irene hit last year, her basement had flooded. She had everything redone, insurance covered it, whatever. This year, her house was condemned. It got moved off of the foundation, and they condemned her house. So yeah, I mean, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. And she's got 2 little ones. One is the same age as little Pilzetto, 2, and the other one's, I think, 7. Just horrible. I'm going to urge you all to please think about donating to Sandy Relief. These are my friends and neighbors that will be affected by your generosity, that are already being affected by your generosity. So please consider it. If you have already, thank you. For us, it's kind of weird because we don't feel like we're victims, and then compared to some of the rest of my friends, and then we realize that yes, we are victims, just because we didn't have heat for so long, and power. So just a few odd side effects. With the tent, with everything, we were going to bed so early that I never really adjusted to the daylight savings time. It's just weird. Because we were going to bed when it was dark. It was dark at 4:30. Well, I mean, we weren't going to bed then, but we were going to bed super early. So, anyway, I talked over my whole Wanted game. I did complete the Wanted challenge, and I think I completed the Wanted challenge on the 27th. Steal the artifact I did on the 28th. That would be my last video. But again, please consider giving to Sandy Relief, whether you want to do it through the Red Cross or whoever else. Just my friends and neighbors would appreciate it. As always, here are the scores and the Hall of Fame and the accolades, and I haven't played AC3 multiplayer yet, so I don't even know what to do there. Please comment, rate, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Pilsy74. See my games on Baby Game. Thanks for watching.